Welcome to another episode of Ecosystem TV. We continue our conversation today with Shayan Hazir, Chief Digital Officer, Southeast Asia at HSBC. So let's talk about AI specifically. I know we've kind of, everyone else is, so why not? Yeah.
Yeah.
So where C is the basic challenge with AI, and you've, kind of spoken about some of it, but specifically the technology. What do you think is the challenge there? Because we're seeing a lot of interest, but we don't see adoption match that interest yet.
The first challenge is there's a lot of impatience. There's a lot of impatience because something bright, new, and shiny has shown up, and we've started, beating ourselves up for not having figured it out. And I think that patience that we need to allow the gestation of this technology, this character arc to develop, we haven't even started that yet. It's like you've already figured out somebody's personality by just looking at their face and said, I know everything that needs to be known about this individual without sitting down and having a conversation and an honest exchange. And I think that's really where we are at this point, that people are just worried about becoming second to somebody who might come up with a new innovation, and they fear that they'll lose out. And I don't think anybody's really figured it out. So I think that's the first point that I want to make, is everybody needs to practice a little bit of patience. This the second thing, which is really important, is the guardrails, which we already touched upon. That we must make it safe for us to innovate with this technology, and make it safe for consumers to interact with this technology. And so then let's make sure that we're creating those guardrails that allow us to really take it to an end user. And certainly even within HSBC, we don't have customer-facing applications at this point in time. And the reason for that is not only are we investing heavily in it, but we're also ensuring that we're opening conversations with regulators. We're creating our own internal governances to make sure that the products that are being created have aligned globally all the way down to the end user, so that we know, the production process. And we'll take them out when we're ready, and it'll be soon, but we want to make sure that we have those things in place. So that was the second point. The third one about that is that I think we need to continue to evolve our thinking around the use cases and applications of it. Because I was saying this to somebody yesterday, that when the internet came out, we didn't start creating chief internet officers or head of the internet. The internet evolved into applications, and that's what I think the power of artificial intelligence will be, that it will find its way into creating efficiency on a multi-product, multi-dimensional basis. And we will adopt it as any other aspect in our lives, like how we've done with the internet. And so in my mind, what we need to do is constantly, as various departments, various parts of the bank, keep asking the question, how can we use artificial intelligence to optimize this process for our customers? How do we use artificial intelligence to design better experiences that our customers deserve? And so the big question is, what do our customers deserve? And so once you have that, you can start working back to it.
What you just said completely resonates. We've been doing this research piece, and it came out that about 78% of organizations, they're actually adopting AI because their competition is adopting it, or because the technology provider is pushing it on them, right? And only about 20 or so said that we actually have ROI and other metrics placed against any kind of an AI solution that we have. And that's pretty much what you said. You have spoken about blockchain, and I know that you've gone to the Point Zero forum earlier this year and things like that. And a lot this year, especially, a lot of focus was on blockchain. So blockchain is again one technology which banks avoided like the plague, and then slowly they're warming up to it, and some banks have adopted it, right? So we saw a shift there. And I think that there is a lesson there that AI and other technologies can learn as to how that can happen. You did discuss that a little bit, but could you just double click on that a little bit?
When you talk about the underlying distributed ledger technology and you talk about blockchain, I think it's fairly safe to say that um, everybody believes in the power of the capability and the base foundational technology. Now, historically, what happened is that got used in a way where crypto started building, kind of resonating, not in a very positive way for the financial services industry, for the multitude of issues that emerged in its early days. And obviously, we're learning from that process, right? So if you're still thinking about how to apply blockchain and DLT technology, I think it starts making a lot of sense when you start thinking of the power of central bank digital currencies, tokenized deposits, stablecoin, areas where there is actually a real asset backing the digital version of it. And I think we believe that within HSBC. In fact, our own tokenization platform, which is called HSBC Orion, which we launched in Luxembourg last year, is now finding its way into new markets. One being Hong Kong, where we launched a digital bond recently, with the HKMA, and so surely there'll be further investment and builds on that. So when you start thinking about like how real world assets can be evolving into more digital formats, and what value of efficiency that they can bring, transparency that they can bring, ability for you to start porting those products and services downstream because you can fractionalize and tokenize them and give them access to a much broader swath of customers. I think you start believing about the inclusivity that it can bring. And I think that's really where we believe that it's such a powerful technology, and it's such a huge leap for the development of financial services architecture. And I think that it started ringing bells within the industry to say, hey, yes, we learned from our mistakes. We're going to make sure that we're going to do this in a safe and coordinated way. And that's why suddenly it's on everybody's radar. And so we're very excited about it in that regard.
You've spoken about a need for convergence, technology convergence. And I think I have heard that from other people, but they don't say it as well as you do. Because technology vendors just come to you and say, "Hey," because you know how it is. We've got a cloud solution, we've got data center or whatever. They're selling it as piecemeal. But you've spoken about convergence. Could you just talk us through that a little
Sure.
bit?
The way to understand convergence is really addressing first that the problems we're solving for is one of design. And it's just picking up from my previous answer to the previous question about what do our customers deserve? And our customers don't deserve an AI enabled product or a blockchain enabled solution. They deserve an experience that will be enabled by these technologies. So the stack, I see the development of a new stack of technologies that is moving us out of mobile and cloud, which was really the pervasive last decade, if you think about it. And most banks are still kind of, doubling down on that. But what we're seeing now is a stack that would have, a blockchain-enabled protocol which is supported by an AI model, and then some few years protected by a quantum key distribution protocol. And so the way I say this is that um, if we want to build amazing new financial services experience, that is really a design question. And once you have that design question, you can start building for that with the convergence of all these amazing new technologies that we're trying to kind of manifest and grow and drive in the industry. And so the way I see it is, if we keep siloing the discussion that, okay, this is an AI conversation because our cloud provider is pushing this new agenda on us, or whether it's a new digital assets product that we're trying to make more relevant, then I think in my mind, it 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 keeps us away from the possibilities of all of this coming together to create unique and powerful financial services experiences.
Shayan, as always, very, very insightful discussion. And thank you very much for joining us today.